We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
A warm and friendly hello! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peters, and now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by good buddy of ours, Nate Hornung. You know him better as Shaggy Bets over at Your Betting News. We're going to chat with him about what we've all been seeing over the last few weeks with these wild court cases. Have to be addressing the fact that Texas Tech has gotten so much better here over the last few weeks. He's a Big 12 guy, so we'll also talk a little bit of Kansas. Here in segment number 1, we did see more news in college basketball on Tuesday. Not so much with regards to court cases, but we've got guys latching on with teams, so we're going to be addressing that, the moves that we are seeing, and if you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I do beg with you, I do plead with you, please do send in these Twitter/X questions. That helps me know what you all want to hear on the podcast, and I do want to get you guys prepared for the greatest college basketball season of all time. I will be continuing on with the conference preview podcast as well, trying to find someone for my Mountain West preview, so that is on the docket. Additionally, we're going to be taking a look at the Patriot League relatively soon as well, so we've got a lot to dive in on that front, and then once we get back in season, obviously picks and analysis on every single game, every single day. Have been doing a few fewer conference preview podcasts here in the last few weeks because of these court cases, and we are seeing a lot of rosters that are having a bunch of movement, like Tennessee State, who I projected number 1 in my projector finish for the Ohio Valley Conference. They actually made a move on Tuesday as Josh Rivera, he was over at Seton Hall last season. He has decided that he is going to be going to Tennessee State, and I know that they picked up Tyler Johnson recently as well, so Tennessee State looking really good for Rivera. Last season when he was over at Seton Hall, didn't necessarily have a big impact for them, only about 3.5 points per game. You'll look back at what he was doing over at Fordham 2 seasons ago out there in the Atlantic 10.5 points, 4.5 boards. It's never been a great three-point shooter, a career 30% three-point shooter, but a guy that at 6'7" and has a nice frame is going to be able to help this team out down low. That is a really good impact for a team in Tennessee State that I think that they are clearly head and shoulders the top team in that conference, and I do think that this just strengthens them even further. And with the court cases that we saw out there in South Carolina, there were a lot of mid-major guys that were in that, so I do think that we are going to be seeing more and more of these mid-major teams being able to muscle up, and then we saw this as well. Gonzaga is indeed going to be getting Skylar Wicks. He has had a very, very long and winding road this is a guy that began his career over at Missouri State, and then he ended up playing a little bit of junior college basketball, spent a year over at Incarnate Word. Last season, he was over at St. Francis of Pennsylvania for some reason after it just didn't pan out for him for UTSA, meet me for the Roadrunners. His best season was last year over at St. Francis, 17.5 points, 6.5 boards, 2.5 assists. He did shoot about 36% from three-point range as well. Stands right around about 6'6". This is going to be another cog for Gonzaga. You know that they still want Donovan Dent, and I'm pretty sure that they still have a roster spot remaining. I could be mistaken because they've been on a little bit of a spending spree recently as they pick up Javon Bennett and Chauncey Wiggins here over the last week or so, so it does cause things to be a little bit tighter there, but as we know, they lost Mario Saint-Sapri, so that's going to be interesting to take a look at. And for Gonzaga, they do look to be that clear head and shoulders favorite out there in the Pac-12. Probably not going to be as dominant in the Pac-12 as they were in the WCC for all those years, but no doubt about it, that's going to be big. And the NCAA did put out a statement late on Tuesday, which I'm sure that we can all have a good hearty chuckle about, that this is coming from, by the way, the legal officer Scott Burby, hopefully I got that correct, that the 10th Circuit has ordered expedited briefing on a request to have a stay pending appeal. The deadline for class members to file a response is August 14th, and the NCAA's reply brief must be no later than Monday the 17th, and they absolutely plan on not allowing these guys from the class of 2022 to not get a blanket waiver. So the NCAA is not backing down on this one. They are the Washington Generals of the court system. They are going to lose this case because they lose every single court case. We all know this. I went to college over in UW Oshkosh for radio, TV, film. I know nothing about the court system. What I do know about the court system is that they hate the NCAA. So there's that aspect of things. That's what we all saw in college basketball on Tuesday, and we're getting more and more of these recaps. Typically, when it comes to mid-August, you're just getting two-part conversations. Nice to be able to have some news, and we're going to be seeing more and more guys latch on, so I'll be continuing to keep up with those, and we're going to continue to have on the great guests, like our good friend Shaggy Betts, aka Nate Hornung. He joins me next right here on Chris Gibson with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Side edge this college basketball season? Well, VSiN experts use CBB Analytics, the most comprehensive college basketball analytics platform in the world. See injury impact, on and off data, clutch time performance metrics, first versus second half splits, and so much more. Utilize the promo code of VSiN, that is VSIN, to get $30 off and find your betting edge over at cbbanalytics.com. That is cbbanalytics, all one word.com. For anyone that is new to VSiN, well, I wish you a friendly hello. This is an attention to anyone that is new to VSiN because you're able to get some free stuff with our daily newsletter. It's a great way to catch up on everything that's happening in the sports betting world. It's delivered straight to your inbox every single morning. VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, strategies for the day's betting menu, and so much more. Sign up for free today over at VSiN.com/newsletter. That's VSIN.com/newsletter, and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That is VSIN.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for Cups Soups with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always great to be joined by this man, as we've got our good buddy Nate Hornung aboard. You know him better as Shaggy Betts. He's doing an absolutely tremendous job over there at Your Betting News, taking a look at this great game of college basketball. He's getting ready for some football and so much more. Was doing a great job when it came to the World Cup as well, so he does not just football, but football. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Shaggy_Betts all together. And Nate, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, happy to be here, Greg. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you joining me, and I asked you this question a few weeks ago, but I think that it's an evergreen question at this point that is very, very valid. What the heck do we make out of all these court cases right now? Because at the time we were thinking, oh, the California case with Donovan Dent, that's big and everything like that, and since then I feel like you had 5 new court cases pop up, and it just feels like the NCAA, like, I still remember the movie The Ring, and we've got a lot of these movies where you have like a stone, a ring, what have you, where you have all your superpowers. It's as if the NCAA lost that ring, rock, what have you, and now they're just crumbling and becoming like that 500-year-old frail old man that just keeps getting beaten up in the court system.
You know, it's wild keeping track of all of this stuff. And I mean, you said it, there's new court cases left and right on all this eligibility stuff. And, you know, it makes it entertaining for us, at least, as, you know, we have plenty of college basketball news to always keep up with. But yeah, new guys getting more eligibility. They're able to find rosters. Some coaches are signing them. Others, you know, specifically Dan Hurley has some words about those coaches signing said players. So it's very interesting. And, you know, it is just the wild west of the NIL era that we're still getting used to.
Yep, and how do you take a look at these teams that are signing the fifth-year guys? Because I do think that there's a little bit of question mark as to whether or not there's going to be chemistry there. And the teams I think are really going to benefit are the teams that have familiarity with the fifth-year guys. Like, I've brought this up quite a bit, but Cincinnati having MJ Collins staying in the Jarrett Calhoun system is big. Even like we saw on Tuesday, this is a great example, Javon Porter. I know that he played at Missouri last year, but 2 years ago he was over at Loyola Marymount. He goes back to Loyola Marymount. I think those are the teams that are going to be benefiting the most from this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one other big name that kind of happened, this week was Darian Williams going back to Texas Tech from NC State. So I think he'll certainly help that team as well, especially without JT Toppin in the mix for the beginning of the season. And like you said, he's got familiarity in this system with Grant McCaslin. So I think that immediately helps the Red Raiders as well, who are going to be filling a big hole with, JT Toppin injured and Christian Anderson moving on.
Oh, man, and I think we need to dive in on this a little bit further because, out of all the teams with the fifth-year guys, I feel like Texas Tech far and away have been the biggest winners because they also bring in JaMychal Stillwell, which, is he going to be JT Toppin? No, but, that was a guy that was putting up a double-figure amount of points in the Big 12 last year over at Central Florida. Nice, solid big man, and all of a sudden for Texas Tech, I don't know what you thought of them prior to this, but I had some question marks because you mentioned it. JT Toppin, dealing with injury, maybe he'll be 100% for the season, maybe he won't be, we don't know there. Christian Anderson is gone, and that caused me to think, man, maybe Texas Tech will take a little bit of a setback. Getting back Darian Williams, I don't think there's going to be any setback anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Immediately helps this team who, was, a premier team in the Big 12 the last few seasons and looking like they were definitely going to take a step back, but not necessarily the case anymore. I know they also lost Lawan Watts, which I think could be, big for him because he was a great role player for them late in the season, especially with Toppin going down. But ultimately, Texas Tech should still be one of the top teams in this conference yet again.
Oh, absolutely. As our good friend Shaggy Betts, a.k.a. Nate Hornung, he is joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And with Texas Tech, I do think that they are the biggest winners in this. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And how do you take a look at a school that I know that you're a little bit of a stan of with the Kansas Jayhawks, because I know that they've been rumored to be in on Alfred Worrell. They're very clearly looking for at least one more player, perhaps even two more players, and it felt like they had a little bit of an incomplete offseason. I know that they got Tyron Stokes, but it feels like they're very much one of these teams that would love to be able to bring in a fifth-year guy.
Yeah, definitely. And, I know they're also kind of being linked to Jackson Kohler as well. He's got plenty of interest from, everywhere else in the country, but that would be big for the Jayhawks to get. But I think, Bill Self, he's done a good job of, getting a nice balanced roster. And in my mind, obviously, we're going to rely heavily on the youth with Tyron Stokes and then McKinney as well to kind of lead the scoring. But overall, I like what Self's done with this team, getting Leroy Blyden as well, kind of a veteran guard from Toledo to help with that backcourt. Certainly makes me have some positive feelings towards this team. So no, I was very much worried at the beginning of this portal season about the Kansas Jayhawks, but I think they got a good roster coming together, and adding one or two more guys would really complete this team.
Yep, I do think so as well, and I have to bring these guys up as well because this is just absolute comedy. We are doing this on August 11th. You're going to be hearing this on August 12th, and as of right now, LSU has 4 players on the roster. Like, they should have at the very least one or two more international guys, and that's a little bit of a process, but they currently cannot field a team of 5 players. And they always talk about, you want thin rotations and everything like that, 6 or 7 guys. Well, at this point, they would love to have 6 or 7 guys on the roster because they don't have that. Like, what the heck do we think of LSU? Because this just feels like an epic disaster of an offseason. They have a chance to be bailed out by some of these fifth-year guys, but they're not even really being linked to these fifth-year guys right now, which absolutely blows my mind.
I'm wondering if LSU has just run out of NIL money, throwing all of it to Lane Kiffin in the football program. Maybe there's just too much going on there. But yeah, you said it. 4 guys on this roster as of early August. It's insane. I have no idea what to think of this roster, what to think of Will Wade, but you said it, just a disaster of an offseason from the LSU Tigers. Sure, you got Diabate coming on to his 3rd SEC team in 3 years, but other than that, you can't field a full team. So we'll see if LSU has to play some 4-on-5. I don't know what to think of this LSU roster. I think it's just going to be bad news down in Baton Rouge all season long.
Hey, I remember when Colin Sexton and Alabama was playing like 3-on-5, and they were actually
Yep.
really good for like 4 minutes. So, hey,
I don't think LSU's got the talent to pull that off.
yeah, like right now, I'm looking at the roster, and you've got Mohamed Diabate, Javine Okachukwu, Abdi Bashir Jr., and Austin Nunez.
That's
I
it.
think that's the end of the roster. And Austin Nunez wasn't even good at UTSA. It was a skid mark on the underpants of the American Conference. So, yeah, it's not great to say the least there. And I do think that it's going to be interesting to see who they try to get because you gotta think that they're going to be in on these guys. And do you think that these guys have just pretty much blacklisted LSU at this point? Because I just feel like they have to be throwing out their money. They have to be trying for these guys, but they're not landing any of them whatsoever.
Right. It's just maybe not, destination that a lot of these guys want to go to, and I don't necessarily blame them. Kind of being in the bottom of the barrel SEC for several years now. I just don't really think there's much pull for these guys to go to Baton Rouge. Obviously, they know it's a bigger football school being in the SEC, and clearly with the way they're treating Lane Kiffin, they have their priorities there on the gridiron. So, yeah, if I was a recruit, I wouldn't necessarily want to go to LSU either, but at this point, they got to be throwing everything at these prospects' way in order to field a full team come November.
Gosh, they need to get like Shaquille O'Neal on the recruiting trail or something like that because this is not great to say the least. But what is great is having our good friend Nate Hornung, better known as Shaggy Betts, right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And no doubt about it, LSU is interesting. And earlier this week, we did see another court case come up with South Carolina having 17 guys file in there. The most notable of them, Malik Renew. And how do you take a look at him? Because I think he could be one of the far and away most impactful guys, like especially if he goes back to Miami, all of a sudden, I think maybe they're not on par with Duke and Louisville, but I think they could easily be that third best team in the ACC. And if he goes elsewhere, that's a guy that I think would be able to fit in nice and easily. He's not like a point guard or anything like that needs to learn the system. And all of a sudden, I think that that's a massive name that could be out there for the taking.
Oh, definitely. I mean, 19 points per game for the Hurricanes last season, improved just 3-point shooting as well, shooting nearly 35% from on the arc last year. So, yeah, he would immediately help the Hurricanes, especially in that, kind of a weaker ACC like we've talked about. Obviously, you got kind of Duke at the top, and Carolina's Carolina. Louisville's kind of frisky this year. But other than that, the ACC kind of up for grabs. So, yeah, adding him back to the roster would definitely put Miami more on my radar than I've had them so far this offseason.
Yep, and they also added LJ Kaysen late as well. I know that they added a few other like mixers and shakers as well because they are dealing with an injury to one of the Allens out there in the front court. So been a little bit of a rough offseason with that regard, but I do like what Miami is building out there. And I also think that it's interesting with that South Carolina case. It wasn't necessarily a bunch of power conference players. We're seeing that right now with California. We're still waiting on what's going to be happening with Donovan Dent. You mentioned Jackson Kaler, Duke Brennan. There's a lot of big names in that California case, but there are a lot of mid-major guys, a few guys from Wichita State, a few guys from High Point. And do you think when it's all said and done, this just whatchamado that we've got with the NCAA, which I actually think is a very appropriate word here because it's sort of like a made-up word and everything feels made up right now with the NCAA, but do you think that it could be, in a way, able to help out a lot of these mid-major teams that a lot of them probably have a roster spot or two available? Maybe they don't have the world's greatest NIL, but these guys are looking to play. They don't want to be working desk jobs anymore, and they probably make more money out there on the basketball court at like a high mid-major like a UNC Wilmington or a High Point rather than just trying to sell cars or something like that.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I would much rather be getting paid to play basketball.
Oh, absolutely.
Than working some other jobs. So, yeah, I mean, you got to think some of these guys maybe are going to kind of have to settle a little bit in the transfer portal market, maybe not get as much money as they would be worth or whatnot. But regardless, that could definitely help out the mid-majors, getting some more talent that maybe these power schools, high major schools don't really have a roster spot for them. So absolutely, I think that could help the mid-major schools be a little bit more competitive as well. So yeah, it will be interesting to see where those guys end up.
Yep, and we've already seen Illinois State get a really good ad. I mentioned it with Loyola Marymount. They're getting back Javon Porter, so we're already seeing it with those mid-major schools. And a little bit of an open-ended question here, because typically when it comes to the middle of August, we've had the roster set for a very long time. We're in way too early top 25 mode. Where is this team going to be finishing in the Big 10, the Big 12, everything like that? well, we still have a lot of roster movement that's going on right now. And is there a team or two that I've yet to bring up that you're starting to feel a little bit differently about, whether it be a little bit more bullish on them, or maybe you thought that they actually would make a move to this point, like I'm looking at you, LSU, and they have not?
I mean, definitely LSU, right? It's just going to be, who knows what they're going to bring to the table in November. But I think I've mentioned it before. I am really high on this Texas Longhorns team. I think they got some great guys in the portal, and my thinking hasn't really changed on them as much. I think they're going to be competitive in the SEC. Obviously, Florida, clearly, the team to beat in that conference. But I think the Longhorns could definitely be competitive with Sean Miller coaching there, getting, David Punch from TCU, getting that Colorado freshman guard as well. So I am high on the Longhorns this year. I think they're going to be very competitive in the SEC.
Yep, Marcus Spears Jr., the number one guy in the class of 2027, and I feel old because I remember when Marcus Spears was playing football. He's now in the fold as well, so we've got a lot that's going on in college basketball right now, and I know that you, Nate, are doing a great job of taking a look at that. You're doing a great job getting set for the football season as well. You do a great job there. You do a great job on the football front as well. You do a lot of different things over there. You're there at Your Betting News, and you do so also well, so let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Absolutely. You can find me on all social media at Shaggy_bets. You can find all my written work over at bettingnews.com, and you can find me hosting shows every weekday on the Betting News Network.
Absolutely. And our good friend Nate, he's doing such an amazing job taking a look at this great game of college basketball every single time he joins me. Lends amazing insight. So big thanks to Nate for joining me on Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And if you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Coast to Coast Hoops, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. We've got a north of 2,435 day span without a missed podcast, so you know what you're going to be getting here. Going to be continuing on with these conference preview podcasts. Going to be looking to do the Mountain West and the Patriot League here in the next week or two. Have been going a little bit more slowly with these conference preview podcasts because of all that we're seeing with these wild court cases, what have you, but still lingering on. It's my job to be able to make this the greatest college basketball season of all time, get you guys great information, so I'm locked in there, and then once we get back in season picks and analysis on every single game, every single day, so I appreciate tuning in today. I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.